Hi, good morning, kids. Welcome to another session of Virtual Bible School. It is good to be back with you again this morning, and I hope you guys are having a great week and an amazing weekend and a very happy and beautiful Sunday morning. We have been having a great time using the felt board, bringing Bible stories to life in this beautiful artwork. And we got another felt board story for you today. And we're going to go through our timeline of what kind of brought us to today's story. Do you remember how we got here, basically? So can anyone tell me about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Those are the guys we've been talking about these past several weeks. A promise was made to Abraham that he would have many, many, many generations and lots of kids that would continue God's plan. And that brought us to Isaac, which brought us to the twins. Remember their names? Esau and Jacob, that's correct. And now we are to a point where Jacob now has a family, and he is continuing to be blessed, and that promise is continuing to be made true. And he has lots of kids, and we're going to talk about one of his kids today. And it's a kid that you probably have heard about. So we remember Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember that God made a covenant with Abraham to make his descendants as numerous as the stars. That was his promise. God also said that he would bless all the world through those descendants. Through all of those generations and all those kids, the world would be blessed. Do you remember how the world's going to be blessed? Jesus. This is all leading up to Jesus being born. So that's quite the blessing that we still are enjoying today, relationship with Jesus, our Savior. So he has promised this, and he promised to continue. His promise continued, to Isaac and to Jacob and Jacob's family, which is where we find ourselves today. So the promise that he made to Abraham, and then he confirmed that promise with Isaac, which was Abraham's son, and then Isaac's son, Jacob. So it just keeps going and going and going. And now Jacob has 12 sons, and one of them is named Joseph. So that is who we are going to talk about today, our good friend Joseph. And I have a little activity before we begin. Now, if you remember the story of Joseph, he was known for something. Joseph was known for lots of things, but when he was young, his father gave him something. Do you guys remember what Joseph's father gave him that was very special? And he only gave it to him. He didn't give it to any of his brothers. Do you remember what it was? It was a coat of many colors, okay? And we're going to do a little activity before we start into the story. The activity is I want you to find a piece of paper and a marker, and you can either draw this yourself, or if you want to have an older sibling help you, or your parents there, whoever's there with you, if you want them to draw it, they can do that as well. So you're just going to take a piece of blank paper, all right? And you're going to draw a coat, all right? Very simple, little swoop for the neck, 2 sleeves, and then nice little square bottom of this coat, okay? And I want you to color this coat any way you want. Make it as colorful, as beautiful, as creative and interesting designs, whatever you want to do. Just make sure it's colorful, because it's important that it's colorful. So take your time to draw this little coat on a piece of paper, and then we're going to color it, and then I'm going to show you some of the artwork that we here at church came up with. I had some familiar faces at church do this very activity, and they made some really beautiful coats that they can share, that we'll share with you later after our story. So take some time, draw this coat, and you can be coloring and as you listen to the story. So let's go right into that. So today's story is called Joseph Sent to Egypt. It is found in Genesis 37, 1 through 36, and also 39, 1 through 41, and 57. So this is a long story, okay? So I want you to put your listening ears on, pay attention, and we will tell you the story of Joseph. Okay, so if you remember, we had our man Jacob. Now Jacob's a little older now, okay? So as you can see, he's gotten a little bit older. He's got a longer beard, a few more wrinkles, all right? So he's getting up there. And he also has a big family. So Jacob and his family were home in Canaan. So that's where they ended up, this land that was promised to them by God. They're living in Canaan. And he also promised this land to Abraham and his family. So this land has been part of their family for a while now. Jacob had 12 sons. So a lot of sons here. So Jacob had 12 sons, all right? These are his 12 sons here, living in the land of Canaan, the land they were promised. And the youngest, actually he wasn't the youngest, there was one younger than him. He was the second to the youngest. His name was Joseph. Now, Joseph was Jacob's favorite son. Do you see a pattern happening here? Wasn't Jacob his mom's favorite son? Remember Rebecca? Yes, Rebecca favored Jacob, and Isaac favored Esau. Do you remember that? Well, apparently he didn't learn his lesson from being the favorite of his mother's and how that caused some problems. He didn't learn from that. So he now has a favorite son, and his name is Joseph. So Joseph was given a colorful robe by his father. So he loved this son so much, and he favored him so much, that he didn't give his other 11 sons a nice coat or a gift. They just kind of worked for the family and did their thing. And but Jacob actually took the time to have this beautiful coat made for his favorite son, Joseph. And the other brothers, no doubt, were jealous of this and actually hated Joseph. Hate was grown into their heart for all the favoritism that their dad showed. So, one day, Joseph shared with his brothers a dream that he had had, okay? So he had a couple dreams here. So Joseph shared with his brothers a dream that he had. He dreamed that he and his brothers were putting together bundles of grain. Suddenly, Joseph's grain, which was here in the middle, stood up, and all the others bowed down to his. So here he is telling his brothers, hey, I know I'm already the favorite, and I have this special coat that Dad gave me that you don't have. And now I'm going to tell you about some dreams that I had. A gift that God gave Joseph was that he had dreams, and the dreams were prophecies. They would come true. This was a talent that God had given him. So his dreams always meant something, and they always came to pass. So in this dream, he had grain, and then there was all his brothers' grain bowing down to him. Then Joseph had another dream. Now in this dream, Joseph saw the sun and the moon and 11 stars also bowing down to him. So the stars should be up in the sky, right? But they were down below Joseph, and they were bowing down to him, the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars. This dream meant that all of Joseph's family would one day bow down to Joseph. Okay, so his brothers are already jealous of him, and they already know that he's the favorite. Now he's telling them these dreams that he has that basically says, one day you're going to bow down to me, and I'm going to be a ruler of you. So of course, this didn't help with them being jealous and hating Joseph. So sometime later, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers who were tending sheep. So here's some sheep. And Jacob says to Joseph, hey, go and find your brothers who are tending the sheep and just check on them, see how they're doing, make sure they're doing their job, see if they need anything. So Joseph did that. He went to go check on his brothers. When the brothers saw Joseph coming, they decide to kill him. So the brothers are all talking. They see Joseph coming with his beautiful coat, and they're all talking amongst themselves, and they said, hey, here comes Joseph. This is the last person we want to see. We hate this guy. We're jealous of him. And he's already told us that his dreams, are going to mean that he's going to be a ruler one day and rule over us. And they decide to kill him. But one of the brothers, one of the older ones and the wiser one, Reuben, right here. Reuben was Joseph's oldest brother, and he convinced the others to throw him into a pit instead. So he's like, you know what, let's not kill him. That might be a little extreme. So let's dig a pit. So they dug a little pit in the ground, and they decide to throw him into the pit. So they take off his coat, and they throw Joseph into the pit. So the brothers throw him into the pit, and then they saw a caravan of people heading to Egypt. So off in the distance, they see this caravan heading off into Egypt. So they got another idea. They decided to sell Joseph to these people heading to Egypt as a slave. So they said, you're just going to be a servant to these people, and we're going to make a little money off of you. So at least they didn't kill him. So first they throw him in the pit, then they see this caravan of people coming, and they tell the people, hey, we have this servant, this slave here, and he's yours for the right price, and you can have him. So that's exactly what they did. They sold him, and the brothers dipped Joseph's robe in goat's blood. So they killed a goat, and they dipped that beautiful coat in goat's blood. So they had a pretty evil plan, right? So they wanted to make it look like something bad had happened to Joseph. Because they had to go back and tell Jacob what had happened, and they couldn't tell them the truth. They couldn't tell Jacob the truth. He'd be very, very upset, and they'd get in trouble. So instead they decided to lie. And so they dipped his coat, his beautiful red coat, they ruined it, and they put it in goat's blood. And they took it back to Jacob. So here's Jacob, wondering what happened to his son Joseph. They leave the sheep, and they come back and they hand they hand him the coat of many colors that is now covered in blood. And they tell him that an animal had killed Joseph, and of course Jacob was very, very sad. So meanwhile, the travelers then sold Joseph to an Egyptian officer. So the travelers kept going, and they still have poor Joseph here. And they sell him to a man named Potiphar. Have you ever heard of Potiphar? He was a very important guy in the Pharaoh's, army, or the people that worked for Pharaoh. He was a pretty important guy. So they sold him to an Egyptian officer named Potiphar. The Lord was with Joseph and made him successful with everything he did. So even though Joseph was sold, God protected him and made sure that he still found success. So he took care of him the entire time. And so Potiphar realized that everything Joseph did was good. And so he put him in charge as his personal assistant. So not only did Potiphar buy Joseph as a servant from this caravan that was heading off to Egypt, he realized what a great young man he was and how successful he was and favored he was by God. And so he put him in charge. So that brings us to the Pharaoh himself. So here's the good old Pharaoh, one of his servants. He was a very, very important person. Now Potiphar's wife, so some time had gone by. Joseph became a very handsome young man, and Potiphar's wife noticed Joseph. She noticed what a good-looking young man he was, okay? So Potiphar's wife tried to get Joseph to sin against God and Potiphar. So she kind of had a little crush on him. And she tried to get Joseph to sin against God and to sin against her husband, Potiphar. But Joseph, being a good Christian man, he refused. He said, nope, no thank you. And this made her angry, okay? So she was very, very upset that Joseph rejected her, all right? So she runs to her husband. And she lied. She lied and said that Joseph had wronged her, okay? And of course, this made Potiphar very, very upset. And Potiphar believed his wife, even though he had known Joseph pretty well at this point, but he believed her. It was his wife, and he believed her that Joseph had wronged her somehow, even though it was a total lie. And Joseph ended up going to jail. So here's Joseph, now in jail, sad and alone, okay? But God was still with him. God was with Joseph and continued to bless him. The jail warden put Joseph in charge of the other prisoners, so he knew, the jail warden even recognized that Joseph was special and was a good guy, and he actually put him in charge of 2 other prisoners. So 2 of the prisoners Joseph cared for were Pharaoh's cupbearer. Okay, so here's the cupbearer. And also Pharaoh's baker. So we have the cupbearer and the baker. They worked for the Pharaoh, and they had somehow gotten in trouble. The Pharaoh had punished them and threw them in jail, and for a time period, and they didn't know what their fate was going to be. Was the Pharaoh going to kill them? Was the Pharaoh going to let them out and they could go back to their jobs in the palace? They didn't know. But remember, Joseph had a special gift. Do you remember what the gift was? He could dream, and he could kind of tell the future, what was going to happen with these dreams. He could prophesy with these dreams and tell what was going to come to pass. So both of them told Joseph about dreams they had. So he was also a dream interpreter. Not only did Joseph have dreams, but he could also interpret other people's dreams. So if you came to him with your dream and said, hey, I dreamt this weird dream, what do you think it meant? Joseph could tell you, this is what it meant. And so it was a special gift that God had given him. And it was going to really save him and bring him to good things, which we'll get to. All right. So both of them told Joseph about dreams they had, and Joseph told them what the dreams meant. Joseph said that one day the cupbearer would serve the Pharaoh again, so he would be forgiven and he would be able to go back to work. But the baker would not, because in 3 days, the baker would die. So that was very bad news. Unfortunately, his dreams came true, and the baker was killed by the Pharaoh. I don't know what he did wrong, but the Pharaoh was very upset and decided to put him to death. But the cupbearer did get to go back to his job and was forgiven by the Pharaoh. Joseph asked the cupbearer to remember him and to tell Pharaoh that he did not deserve to be in jail. So he pleaded with him, he said, please tell the Pharaoh when you go back to work that I did not do anything wrong, that I'm a good man of God, and I never did anything wrong to Potiphar's wife, and that she had lied because she was jealous and upset that she didn't get what she wanted. And so the cupbearer said that he would do that he would tell the Pharaoh that Joseph did not deserve to be in jail. So the cupbearer did serve Pharaoh again. So let's go back to the palace. There's the Pharaoh and his servant. And the cupbearer went back and he continued to serve the Pharaoh. So the cupbearer would bring the Pharaoh his drink, his wine, okay? And a lot of times they would drink it first to make sure it wasn't bad wine or poisoned or anything, and to make sure that the Pharaoh would be safe if anyone was trying to hurt him. So the cupbearer served Pharaoh again, but he forgot about Joseph in jail. He forgot about him. He kind of was so excited to be back doing his thing that he totally forgot to tell the Pharaoh about Joseph. And he forgot about him for 2 long years. So for 2 years, Joseph stayed in jail. That would have been really hard. I'm sure Joseph got frustrated and discouraged, but God was always with him. But at the time, during those 2 years, or towards the end of those 2 years, Pharaoh had 2 dreams. Okay, so now Pharaoh was dreaming, all right? So let's talk about Pharaoh's dreams here. All right, so in Pharaoh's dream, he saw 7 fat cows. Okay, here's the fat cows. And he saw 7 skinny cows. All right, so he's telling this dream to his cupbearer. And he saw 7 fat cows, and they were eaten by the 7 skinny cows. So the 7 skinny cows actually ate the big fat cows. Can you imagine? Doesn't make sense, does it? Almost needs someone to interpret that dream, needs someone to make sense of it. And he also saw that 7 grains were eaten, okay? It's kind of a very similar idea. 7 fat grains of heads of grain were eaten by 7 thin heads. Gone, okay? So both of these dreams, the skinnier and the weaker parts of his dream, whether they be the cows or the heads of grain, the weaker ones ate the fatter ones, all right? No one knew what these dreams meant, and that is when the cupbearer remembered Joseph. Okay, so the cupbearer remembered, hey, I think I know somebody that can interpret these dreams for you, Pharaoh, and his name was Joseph, and I was in jail with him. You remember Joseph? Yes. So the Pharaoh was very excited about this. So God told Joseph what Pharaoh's dreams meant. So God gave Joseph that gift. Okay, Joseph didn't have the gift of knowing what dreams meant on his own. It was a gift that God had given him. And so God told Joseph what the Pharaoh's dreams meant, and Joseph explained the dreams to the Pharaoh. So they get Joseph out of jail, and he comes before the Pharaoh, and he decides to tell him what his dreams meant. So what it meant with the 7 cows, the 7 fat cows and the 7 thin cows, is that they were going to have 7 years of great food. So there was going to be plenty of food for everybody to eat, and they wouldn't go hungry. But that was going to be followed by 7 years of no food, and they would be a famine, and they would be very, very hungry and starving. So it was very important that they take care of their food and make sure that they have enough to last them the 7 bad years. And that's what the dream of the grain meant as well, that they had to prepare and make sure they had enough grain. So Joseph told Pharaoh these dreams, and Pharaoh was very, very happy about it. So happy that he decided to make him a very important official. So he kind of made him second in command. So here Joseph went from being sold by his brothers, almost killed by them, except the oldest brother Reuben decided to spare him. And so he's sold twice. He's sold once by his brothers and then again by the people going to Egypt to Potiphar. Potiphar's wife gets jealous and mad that Joseph didn't like her, and he wouldn't sin with her, and she gets him thrown in jail by lying. And then he meets these 2 guys and tells them their dreams. Unfortunately, one didn't make it and one did. And now here he is in front of the Pharaoh and tells him what his dreams meant and saved the land, saved that country that kingdom from being destroyed by famine. So they knew to get lots of food, ready and save it. So in the 7 years of good, where they had lots and lots of food, they put a lot of it back, and they say they ate what they needed, and then they saved a lot of it. And so in the next 7 years, they were able to have plenty of food to get them through that famine. And so people then would come to Joseph. I'll put them back there. And they would come and get food from Joseph, and he took care of the people. And the Pharaoh noticed this. So now just remember that. So now he is second in command. So he has come quite a long ways, and God is using him. And it's part of that statement that we've been talking about, that God's plan is always perfect. And even though we're broken and sometimes make mistakes and we sin, and the world is not perfect, God's plan is always perfect. So really, really, really cool story. We're going to hear more about Joseph next week. So stay tuned, because there's more coming. All right, give me a second. I have to grab my paper. All right, guys, so we're going to go on to our next activity, which, remember, I told you to draw pictures of Joseph's coat of many colors. So here's what your original picture should have looked like, okay? Just the outline of a coat. And I'm going to show you some of the ones that the church staff came up with. So they did a really, really good job. So this one is Miss Rachel. Okay, you guys might know Carter and Rachel Bauer, and she works here in the church office, and she made this beautiful coat of many colors. So that's from Miss Rachel. This one is mine. Okay, little crazy pattern on there. All right, but that's Mr. Mike. That's me. All right, I did that one. We have Miss Amanda, church secretary extraordinaire. All right, look how beautiful those colors blend. So that's Miss Amanda. Hopefully these are inspiring you, if you haven't made your coat yet, to get to work and make some of your own really beautiful coats. This is Miss Robin. You guys know Miss Robin? Robin Mitchell. She does all the kid planning stuff. She is in charge of making all these awesome programs for you guys. All this fun stuff we get to do, Little Lambs and Children's Church and Vacation Bible School and King's Kids and all that. So that's Miss Robin, and she did a really fun one with polka dots. And you guys might have heard of this guy, Pastor Tony. Pastor Tony was here, and he drew one too. So he has a very colorful one with a really cool print in the middle, and these are beautiful examples of an amazing multicolored coat. So I would love to see yours. So if you want to bring the church sometime, maybe we can even hang them up in Amanda's office, and we can see all the beautiful coats that you colored. So I hope you enjoyed that activity. That's a pretty fun one. It's always fun to be a little bit creative. All right. So now we're going to end with a few questions. So I hope you guys were listening to this amazing story today. The Felts really brought it to life. So we should be able to answer these questions pretty easily if we were paying attention. All right. So number one, how many sons did Jacob have? How many were there? It's including Joseph. There were 12. 12 sons. That's a lot of kids, all right? So God really kept his promise to Abraham and to Isaac and to Jacob that they would have many, many kids, okay? Number two, what did Jacob give Joseph that made his brothers so jealous? Okay, we just talked about it. We just showed you a lot of cool pictures, and it was that amazing multicolored coat, okay? So, number three, what did Joseph's brothers do to him? Okay, now remember, they were going to kill him, and then Reuben, the oldest brother and the wisest, obviously, decided that was a really bad idea, and they go for the second lesser bad idea, that they would just sell him. And that's what they did. They sold him into slavery and told their father that Joseph had died, which was a total lie. Number four, Why was Joseph thrown in jail? Do you remember what he did? Well, he didn't do anything, but he was a servant at Potiphar's house and was accused of doing something that he did not do. So Potiphar's wife lied, and he was thrown in jail because of that. Number 5. Whom did Joseph meet in jail that would later tell Pharaoh about Joseph and his ability to interpret dreams through that gift from God? Who was that? It was the cupbearer. Yeah. Number 6. What was the dream that Joseph interpreted for the Pharaoh? Okay, remember the dream? It was 7 fat cows, and they were eaten by the 7 skinny cows, and then there were 7 heads of grain that were fat and full, and they were eaten by the 7 skinny heads of grain, which told about the 7 years of prosperity and good food, and then the 7 years of famine that they had to be prepared for. And number 7, what did what did Pharaoh do when Joseph interpreted his dream? Well, he made Joseph second in command. So he made him a very, very important man in Pharaoh's kingdom. So there is more to come about Joseph. He is one of my favorite Bible characters. Remember, everything in the Bible was true, and so this was a real guy, and it's real. These things happened to him, and it's just such a cool story. I'm looking forward to next week. I will actually be here again next week to continue the story of Joseph. I hope you guys have an amazing week. Remember that we love you. Spring is coming. Warm weather is coming. Get yourselves outside. Enjoy God's creation, and we will see you soon. Bye.